Hi everyone, today we will talk about an important issue and a timely issue as well. We will discuss the study of the Henry Gates uh, race as the trope of the world. Before starting the discussions about this paper, please subscribe, like and share this video, and thank you for everything. Let's start with a brief biographical information about Henry Gates. He was born in Kaiser, West Virginia. After completing undergraduate studies at Yale in 1973, Gates studied at Cambridge University, and where he received his PhD in 1979. He has taught at Cornell, Duke, and Harvard universities. And more importantly, there is almost no aspect of African world history that Gates' scholarship and filmmaking has not touched in one way or another. He has written many books, and he has written regularly for the New York Magazine, etc., etc. So, let's begin with the studies. At first, it starts with the description of the race, and it says that race has become a trope of ultimate, irreducible difference between cultures, linguistic groups, or adherents of specific belief systems, which more often than not also have fundamentally opposed economic interests. Therefore, race is the ultimate trope of difference because it is so arbitrary in its application. The biological criteria used to determine difference in sex simply do not hold when applied to race. Yet, we carelessly use language in such a way as to will this sense of natural difference into our formulations. To do so is to engage in a pernicious act of language, one which exacerbates the complex problem of cultural or ethnic differences, rather than to assuage or redress it. For example, Henry Gates gives an example about George Moses Horton. George Moses Horton had, by the middle of the 1820s, gained a considerable reputation at Chapel Hill as the slave poet. His master printed full-page advertisements in northern newspapers soliciting subscriptions for a book of Horton's poems and promising to exchange the slave's freedom for a sufficient return on sales of the book. Writing for these slaves was not an activity of mind, rather it was a commodity which they were forced to trade for their humanity. Interesting. So, Henry Gates says that blacks and other people of color could not write, and writing, many Europeans argued, stood alone among the fine arts as the most salient repository of genius, the visible sign of reason itself. In this subordinate role, however, writing, although secondary to reason, is nevertheless the medium of reason's expressions. We know reason is reason by its writing, by its representations. Such representations could assume spoken or written form. The direct correlation between economic and political alienation on the one hand and racial alienation on the other is epitomized in the following 1740s South Carolina statute that attempted to make it almost impossible for black slaves to acquire, let alone master, literacy. Quote, and whereas the having slaves taught to write or suffering them to be employed in writing may be attending with great inconveniences, be it enacted that all and every person and persons whatsoever who shall hereafter teach or cause any slave or slaves to be taught to write or shall use or employ any slave as a scribe in any manner of writing whatsoever, hereafter taught to write, every such person or persons shall, for every offence, forfeit the sum of £100 current money, unquote. Thus, as you see, learning to read and to write then was not only difficult, it was a violation of a law. Also, in a major essay of natural characters, Hume discusses the characteristics of world's major division of human beings. In a footnote added in 1753 to his original text, Hume posited with all of the authority of philosophy the fundamental identity of complexion, character, and intellectual capacity. Quote, I am apt to suspect the Negroes, and in general all the other species of man, to be naturally inferior to the whites. There never was a civilized nation of any other complexion than whites, nor even an individual eminent either in action or speculation. No ingenious manufacturers amongst them, no arts, no science. Such a uniform and constant difference could not happen in so many countries and ages, if nature had not made an original distinction betwixt these breeds of man. Not to mention our colonies, there are Negro slaves dispersed all over Europe, of which none ever discovered any symptoms and ingenuity. In Jamaica, indeed, they talk of one Negro as a man of parts and learning. Francis Williams, the Cambridge-educated poet who wrote verse in Latin, but this likely he is admired for very slender accomplishments, like a parrot who speaks a few words plainly, unquote. And how racist, you see, why black people right now taking the cities, you should understand after this quote from the Hume's essay. Also, Hume's opinion on the subject, as we might expect, became prescriptive. In his observations on the feeling of beautiful and sublime, Kant elaborates on Hume's essay in section 4 entitled of National Characteristics, so far as they depend upon the distinct feeling of beautiful and sublime. Kant first claims that so fundamental is the difference between races of man. It appears to be as great in regard to mental capacities as in color. Kant, moreover, is one of the earliest major European philosophers to conflate color with intelligence, determining the relation he posits with dictatorial surety. Quote, Father Labert reports that a Negro carpenter whom he reproached for haughty treatment toward his wives answered, You whites are indeed fools, for first you make great concessions to your wives, and afterward you complain when they drive you mad. And it might be that there was something in this which perhaps deserved to be considered, but in short, this fellow was quite black from head to foot, a clear proof that what he said was stupid. You see, and what Kant says is racist in his writing. So the correlation of black and stupid Kant posits as if it was self-evident. We have to consider prominent philosophers' ideas about racism and examine their ideas when we are reading or writing about these philosophers' ideas. Also, let's continue. Hegel, echoing Hume and Kant, claimed that Africans had no history, that because they had developed no systems of writing and had not mastered the art of writing in European languages, In judging civilizations, Hegel's strictures with respect to the absence of writing history presume a crucial role for memory, a collective cultural memory. Metaphors of childlike nature of the slaves, of the mask, puppet-like personality of the black, all share this assumption about the absence of memory. Ironically, Anglo-African writing arose as a response to the allegations of its absence. Black people responded to these profoundly serious allegations about their nature as directly as they could. They wrote books, poetry, autobiographical narratives, political and philosophical discourse were the predominant forms of writing. Among these, autobiographical deliveries narratives were the most common and the most accomplished. Accused of lacking a formal and collective history, blacks published individual histories which, taken together, were intended to narrate in segments the larger yet fragmented history of blacks in Africa, now dispersed throughout a called New World. The narrated descriptive eye was put into service as a literary form to posit both the individual eye of the black author as well as the collective eye of the race. Text created author and black authors, it was so, would create or recreate the image of the race in European discourse. The very face of the race was contingent upon the recording of the black voice. Voice presupposes that face, but also seems to have been taught to determine the very contours of black face. In the study of the Henry Gacy's paper, we briefly summarize the ideas of major European philosophers, ideas about race and black people. As you see in the ideas of the Kant, Hegel, and Hume's, they mainly talk about the white supremacy. And when we are reading or writing about these philosophers' ideas, we should consider these points. Also, we have to be aware of the sufferings of the black people and understand and make more empathy for their losses, and we should be aware of they are not taking the streets not just but by one thing, one time. It's not a one-time thing, because these events continuously affect their lives every day. Since the colonization, we should take into consideration these historical and philosophical roots of the racism and help and encourage people to talk loudly about this. So, please subscribe, like, and share if you like my videos. See you everyone. Take care.